Welcome everyone to the Red Bricks channel, where we're about to embark on an eye-opening journey into the realm of Meltology, a true science that stands head and shoulders above geology, with its questionable evidence and theories. Today we invite you to explore the compelling evidence and revelations that Meltology offers. We're at it every day, shedding light on the realm that has long been misunderstood. We encourage you to watch this video under the Fair Use Act, allowing you and I together to witness firsthand what we as Meltologists are working tirelessly to communicate to the world. Geology has undeniably played a significant role in shaping our understanding of Earth's process and history. However, some, and that's us Meltologists, believe that certain aspects of conventional geology may have led to confusion when it comes to comprehending specific events and phenomena that transpired within our world. In this video, we'll explore alternative viewpoints and theories that aim to provide clarity and shed new light on these intriguing topics that geology has really misled people in regard to what the truth is. So, without further ado, let's dive into this fascinating exploration. Here we go. Let's take a look. Let's close some of this stuff up here. We don't need that, so we close that. We don't need to save that. So here we go. Red Bricks Bob on the Red Bricks channel today, doing a little live, and we're gonna take a look-see, and we're gonna bump over to this guy's video. Bassonite is the name of this guy, his handle, and we're gonna watch this under the Fair Use Act, and together, and it'll be live. I'm gonna open up a phone here in a minute so I can see if anyone's in the chat. Here I am there. Let's see, where do we got going here? Okay. Here we are, folks. There we are right there. We're going to go dive into this now. Here we go. Okay, we got to turn this window capture on. Here we go. Uinta Mountains. And that's what a geologist will tell you, and that's what we be trained by our world academia. But we, as Meltologists, tell you Uinta Melted Building Range. Okay, that's Uinta Melted Building Range, and that's where they go mine for all those things that were melted in those buildings and so forth. That's where all your mines are, your caves are, and so forth. So here we go. We're going to watch this as we have this on. No, that a lot of it's just nonsense, but I want you to listen to it all the way through. But we'll get to a certain point and we'll look and we'll show you what the geologist isn't pointing out. The red brick pattern, the block line, all those things were melted. That will show you. He'll give you all kinds of terms about a rock can go from one rock to another rock and so forth through a process with water and time. And he's just full of it. So we're going to show you what he's talking about is nonsense and what Meltology is the truth. So here we go. We're going to play that out. Hopefully.
Right now, I'm up in one of my favorite places, the High Uinta Mountains. And I'm just up here messing around. And while I'm up here, we're going to talk about the Lost Roads Mine. And I'm going to give you my theory, and it's just my theory, on where I believe it's located at. And at the end of the video, I'll give you 3 reasons why I believe this. And my theory is based primarily on a specific geological feature you will find up in the High Uinta Wilderness area. While we're talking about this, I'm going to show you different footage of the High Uintas. So those of you not familiar with this part of the Uinta Mountains, you can kind of see what it looks like, and this way you get a good feel for the area we're talking about. For those of you not familiar with the Lost Worlds mine, there's some minor variations of the story, but the gist of it is basically you had this very rich deposit of gold that was being worked by the Spaniards. I believe probably in the late 1700s, and the Ute Indians ended up chasing the Spaniards out of this area. And then sometime after that, you had the Mormon pioneers come out west and settle in the Salt Lake Valley. And one of the prominent Ute Indian chiefs by the name of Chief Walkera ended up converting to the Mormon faith, and he allowed one of the Mormon leaders, a gentleman by the name of Thomas Rhodes, to remove gold out of this deposit, not for his own benefit, but for the benefit of the Mormon church, which was struggling financially at that time. Thomas ended up becoming ill, and his son Caleb Rhodes was allowed to remove gold out of this deposit. Caleb Rhodes ended up passing away in 1905, and he took the mine's location with him to his grave, and people have been searching for it ever since. And unlike most treasure stories, this one does have some historical evidence to substantiate it, so I do believe it's a real mine. And before we get talking about it, we're just going to go over some very basic geology on how gold is deposited and the type of rocks you can find up here in the Uinta Mountains. On this beautiful rock that we call Earth, there's basically three classifications of rock. The first rock is sedimentary rock. And all sedimentary rock is you have a deposit of sediments, and then you'll usually get specific minerals that'll mix in with it, usually calcite and silica. And these minerals act as a bonding agent, like a glue, and the sediments will start to cement together, and then they'll turn into periods of time, can happen over and over again, and you'll get what's called bedding planes and different layers of strata. And the Uinta Mountains is kind of unique, where it consists primarily of sedimentary rock.
Melted buildings.
And the type of sedimentary rock you'll find in the Uinta Mountains is you'll have your limestone, your shell, sandstone, and different type of conglomerate type rocks. And lucky for us, you will find gold in sedimentary type rock. The primary method would be quartz veins. And this process I'm going to describe for quartz veins, this applies to all of your different types of rocks. But all a quartz vein is deep within the earth, you have these magma chambers, and right up above the magma, you'll have groundwater, these deposits of water. And this process is called hydrothermal circulation. And how it works is the magma will heat up this groundwater, so this groundwater becomes very hot. It's superheated. And as this groundwater's rising to the surface of the earth through different cracks and fissures, all of the minerals that it comes into contact with, it will dissolve and absorb. So this fluid is very mineral rich. Think of it as like a mineral soup. And as this fluid gets closer to the surface, you have a process called precipitation, and as it gets closer to the surface, it starts to cool down, and the gold will start to drop out, and the other minerals as well, and they'll deposit on the surrounding host rock. So as this fluid is going up through a crack and the gold drops off, it'll deposit on the surface of that crack, as will all the other minerals. And this process will repeat itself over and over and over again. And as these minerals get deposited in this crack begins to fill up until it's all the way solid with these different minerals. And that's what a quartz vein is. And how I like to think of a quartz vein is it's like an elevator that the earth uses to bring minerals up from down below to the surface. And always remember, with the quartz vein, the nastier, uglier, darker looking quartz, that's the quartz you want, because that's very saturated with different minerals. Another way you can get gold in sedimentary rock is envision like you have this ancient river, And on this ancient river or stream or whatever, you have a bend. And then up here, you have this super rich gold vein on some cliff edge. And this would be called a lode deposit. And then you have different chemical and physical type weathering, and this gold becomes dislodged, and it makes its way into the river, and it floats down the river, and it gets trapped right here in this river bed. And that would be what you'd call an alluvial type deposit, a placer type deposit. And say over time this river dries up or changes course, and you have the right conditions, and all those sediments found in that river bed start to solidify, start to harden, cement together, and turn to a rock. And in this case, it'd be probably like a conglomerate type rock. Well, that gold gets trapped in that sediment. And so that's another way you can have gold deposited in sedimentary type rock. The next type of rock, you have what's called metamorphic rock. And to think of metamorphic rock, think of metamorphism, like where you have this caterpillar and it changes form and it turns into a butterfly. And so metamorphic rock, you begin with an already existing rock. So you have a rock and you apply heat and pressure to it. Now the rock never melts, that's important to understand. It does not melt, but it will change form, and it'll turn from one type of rock into an entirely different type of rock. A good example would be limestone. If I had a chunk of limestone and I apply the right amount of heat and pressure to it, that limestone will change form and turn into marble. In the Uinta Mountains, we do have metamorphic rock. You have your quartzite formations, like your Uinta and your Red Creek, and you also have slate. And you will find gold in metamorphic rock. Over in Colorado, there's a metamorphic rock called gneiss, and they've had really good luck, the old timers did, of getting gold out of gneiss. I found 2 mines where they dug into an outcropping of gneiss, but the main method would probably be quartz veins or igneous intrusions, which brings us up to the third type of rock, igneous rock. Igneous rock, and this is the topic of this video, igneous rock is most definitely a gold-bearing rock. Most of your beautiful mountain towns, these high elevation towns that tourists flock to, they all began because some old crusty prospector found a super rich deposit of gold in some outcropping of igneous rock, usually in a quartz vein, or they found a large deposit of gold in the contact zone. And igneous rock, how it works is it's all, think of like volcanic, and so you have this molten magma in the earth, which is super rich in different elements and minerals. And as this magma comes up to the surface of the earth, it starts to cool down, starts talking, and we call that type of rock an igneous rock. And if this rock is formed below the surface of the earth, it forms very large crystals, and it's classified as extrusive, or intrusive, I'm sorry. And the reason it forms these larger crystals is because it has a surrounding rock to insulate it, so it cools down a lot slower. If the rock forms or cools down and forms above the surface of the earth, it forms a lot smaller crystals, and it's classified as extrusive. And these crystals make igneous rock very strong. They kind of like interlock together. And so more than likely your house right now, if you have like a rock countertop in your kitchen or in your bathroom, it's probably an igneous rock, more than likely granite. And another interesting thing that igneous rocks will do, and this is what we're going to be focusing on today, is say you have a crack in the earth, a fault, where you have 2 large bodies of rocks and the earth's moving and shifting and it separates, right? Well, the earth doesn't like these cracks. It wants to fill them in. And so this molten magma will come up, fill in that crack. As it gets closer to the surface, it'll start to cool down, solidify, and harden, and turn to an igneous rock. And then what will happen over time, the surrounding rock, and this is called your country rock, it's usually a very softer material. So over very long periods of time, this surrounding country rock will start to erode away. And that'll leave what looks like a wall of rock. It looks like a gigantic vein of rock. And that's called a dike. And in this this case an igneous dike, and prospectors love an igneous dike. Some of the most richest gold mines in the world have been found near these dikes in the deposit areas. And so igneous rock, it was believed there was no igneous rock anywhere to be found in the Uinta Mountains until 1894. And in 1894, this myth was almost busted when you had this very short-lived gold rush that occurred up here in the Uinta Mountains. So in 1894, you had this very short-lived gold rush up here in the Uinta Mountains. And there's a guy named Dale Bascom who wrote a book called Following the Legends. And in this book, he dedicates a chapter to this piece of history. So if you want to research it further, that's probably a good place to start. But basically what happened was, in 1894, you had this man by the name of Enoch Davis. And Enoch was an inmate at the Utah State Prison, and he was on death row for murdering his wife. And he was in the process of trying to appeal his case. So Enoch was a very desperate man. And at this time, Enoch was alleging that he knew where a very rich gold mine was, located on a dike way up in the Uinta Mountains. And not only that, but he was claiming that the mine that had been rumored Caleb Rhodes was working in secret, that mine and this mine were one and the same. They were the same mine. And it turned out that Enoch, the way he knew about this mine was he grew up around the Rhodes family, and he was childhood friends with one of Caleb Rhodes' boys. And they grew up together, they were buddies. And then later on in life, Enoch would find himself working at the old military post in Fort Duchesne as a blacksmith. And Caleb's son came along. They were kind of reminiscing. I imagine Caleb's son got caught up in the excitement. And at that point in time, he took Enoch up to the high Uintas and showed him this gold mine in this dike. And so what Enoch did was, his cellmate was getting ready to be released from prison. And so he worked out a deal with him, and he drew this guy a map to the mine and tried to explain to him how to find it. And the condition was this guy was supposed to take half the gold and pay Enoch's attorney fees, because Enoch was going through the appeals process and trying to get his case overturned. And the rest of the gold that was left over, Enoch wanted that given to his kids. And then this other guy, he could keep the other half for himself and do whatever he wanted with it. But unfortunately for Enoch, this cellmate of his who got released from prison, he was not very competent, and he had a big mouth. He talked too much. He was trying to recruit different people to go up there and help him find this mine, and, which is a big mistake. And there was a newspaper reporter who worked for the Vernal Express newspaper, and he caught wind of this secret gold mine located up in this mysterious dike up in the Uinta Mountains. And this newspaper reporter started publishing all of these very sensational type articles about this gold mine. And of course, this attracted a lot of attention. And that year, you had upwards of 700 men living in the high Uinta wilderness in these like makeshift tent cities, looking for this mine and staking claims all over around this dike. And these men came from Salt Lake, Denver, Cheyenne, and all the way from Helena, Montana. And then you started getting businessmen that started going up there from Salt Lake, and they started plotting out the town. And it was going to be the next boom town of the West. And they even had a name for it. They were going to call it Hillsdale, Utah. And then Vernal, Utah, and Green River getting into like a little bit of a competition, because both of these towns wanted to be the town that was going to build the road up to Hillsdale, this new boom town, so they could supply the town with all their needs. It was going to be good for business. And then for whatever reason, it just died off. And I think what probably happened was a lot of these men that ran up there, they got caught up in the excitement. thinking they're going to strike it rich. And they probably didn't even know what they were doing. They didn't even know what to look for. And then the reality kind of kicked in, and they probably started missing their families, and they knew they had all these chores back on the family farm that were being neglected. And so they went home, and the businessmen and types like that would have quickly followed. And this left your diehard prospectors. They would have stayed up there. And diehard prospectors like that, they're a very secretive bunch, and I imagine they sunk a lot of shafts into the contact zone in this dike, and unfortunately we'll never know what they found. But my friend Clay, and I did a video on it, he went up and showed me one of their old cabins, and it's a beautiful cabin. And so men like this prospector that built this cabin, they continued to work this dike in secret, clear up and until the 1970s. There was a man by the name of Howard Mitzvah, and Howard was a government geologist, and he lived right here in Utah. And he was fishing on the White Rocks River, and he looked down into the river and he saw an unusual looking rock. And so he grabbed this rock out of the river, and it was an igneous rock. And up to that point in time, it was always believed there were no igneous rocks to be found anywhere in the Uinta Mountains. And so Howard theorized that this rock must have came from a different mountain range, and some guy found it, thought it was pretty, threw it in the back of his pickup truck, forgot about it. Sometime after that, went fishing on the White Rocks River, and one of his kids, climbed in the back of the pickup truck, grabbed the rock, went down to the river and chucked it into the river, and that's how this rock was introduced into the White Rocks River. But Howard had issues with that because the rock showed a lot of erosion from tumbling a very long ways down the White Rocks River. And to make a long story short, in the 1970s, Howard came into contact with some prospectors who lived in Vernal, Utah, and these prospectors were working this igneous dike up in the Uinta Mountains. And they brought Howard some samples of the rock, and in case you're wondering, it's diorite and gabbro. The diorite's not your typical salt and pepper color, it's a very gray color, a dark gray. The same thing with the gabbro. The gabbro will range from gray grain to your typical darker colors. But with these rock samples, Howard was able to get the authorization and approval he needed to go up there and research and document this dike. And so Howard, some other government geologists, and at different times they would take geology students from the University of Utah, I'm sure to do all the grunt work, but they went up there and did their field study on this dike. And I was able to find their reports, their pictures, and most importantly, all of their assays. And during the last ice age, as the glaciers came over, they broke off top pieces of the dike, and so there's certain areas where you have a lot of float rock. And then as the glaciers retreated, they deposited a lot of sediments over certain areas of the dike. And so the dike goes like this. It'll surface and then dip into the earth, and then surface and then dip into the earth. And up there in the high Uintas, the dike runs for an estimated 25 miles, and on average it's about 20 feet thick. And these assays that they did on the dike, they did a total of 13 assays. They found lots of minerals. It was very rich in aluminum and very rich in titanium. And in the report, Howard even comments on how surprised they were of what the high concentrations of titanium clear across the dike in all of their assays. The dike's full of a lot of iron, quartz. There was one area of the dike that Howard outlined on his map where there was a large deposit of limonitic soil. And limonitic soil is soil that's basically so saturated in iron and some other minerals that it turns like a yellow color and nothing will grow in it. But they only did one assay for gold, which is very weird. When you discover an igneous intrusion like that, it's never been documented, and they did 13 assays for all these other minerals, but only one assay for gold. Is very strange, and I've given it a lot of thought, and the only thing I can think of is I think they didn't want to find gold. They being the USGS. During this time, and this isn't in the report, this is just my speculation, but during that time, there was a big movement to designate this entire area as a wilderness area, and that movement was successful, and I think it was 1984, give or take, somewhere around there, when that entire area was by law designated as a wilderness area. And so I think that's why they didn't want to find gold, because if they would have found gold, it would have severely have complicated that. I don't think they would have been able to designate it as a wilderness area if they would have found a large deposit of gold. But the one test they did.
Okay, now see how always designating certain areas. Now look behind them. You see the block line, the brick pattern. You see it right there in your face. Where he's at, he's just, I don't know, what he only has like 1,000 subscribers. He's just probably someone trying to be intellectual, regurgitating things that he was told and that he believes and so forth. But we showed you just on his own walk. You backlog from what we just watched now, and you will clearly see red bricks, meltification. What geology tells you is absolutely nonsense about this, what he was saying, that this would happen in water and so forth. And he even tells you it don't melt. And you see it's melted, folks. Right here at the end of my street, we have a big chunk of what looks just like what he wants to call rocks there, and it was red bricks, folks. The patterns there and everything, and it's everywhere. That's why we can just talk about this and show evidence like this. We can go to any location and prove Meltology and prove that geology is a lie, just based on the melt. Okay, so it proves itself. Meltology. It is a science and an art, and we have much to say about it, and we've said many things about Meltology. And it's going to resculpt this world to a greater understanding of where we live and this mystery of, how this has all been hidden from us. And, we have examples over and over and over with geology and the mysteries and government and so forth. So you'll see that one government will always want to blame another government. And and many Meltologists, maybe some don't agree with me completely on this side of things, and that's all governments are one. Okay, some do. The real, the wizards in the Meltologist game who understand this realm far greater than many know that what I just said is absolute fact. That there'll be propaganda stuff out. You'll hear in the news, and I don't even watch the news. Sometimes I catch parts of it when I'm tying my shoes at the door and stuff, but talking about all kinds of things like they'll blame China now for what happened in Maui and so forth. Well, see, that's how they play the game. See, but they won't talk about they were trying to get a satellite city, and that'd be the first one forth, and here you go, and look what they did to all those people. And this administration and the last ministry, and these administrations, when something happens to these kids, like we're at the border in Mexico, one would have a cold and they would announce it to the world. And we had this terrible event transpire in Maui that was, again, evidence points to those people in charge. That law agency needs to be shut down. It's a Freemason broken piece of people are being protected by a bunch of cops that they hire that are brain dead and don't understand anything except they're subservient to the citizens. And that's the facts. So anyway, this guy here, I don't see anybody in the chat. So, you know, we've seen quite a bit of what he had to say there. And I don't know there's how much more left. Not much. Maybe I could pan to really go far and see if he has any more thing to show about. See more block lines all through there. Let me, with this window capture, I can look at the properties of that window capture, and maybe I'll grab the mouse, capture a cursor. So now, right there, look at that, folks. See? Look at this block line, multiplication. What are you talking about, dude? Turn around. Get the camera out and go there. Look right here where this tree is, right here. Right there, down here. Look, what do you see? Block lines. See? The red bricks melted. You know, they had concrete finishes on them and other stuff, whatever was in the building, around the building, and so forth, was all in the melt. Okay? It was from the ground up. And that's what we're trying to urge to you there, Bassonite. So, I don't know what else. Is there some more footage where, you know, that's beautiful footage right there to show you right there. You know what I mean? Let's see. I would just like to take a screenshot. Maybe we'll do that right here live on the camera here. We'll take a screenshot. You see that? We'll grab a screenshot. I don't know if we're seeing that or not. But I'm going to take a screenshot just for this guy. Just to show him. I'll label it Show a Geologist the Truth. Behind him, right? Show a Geologist the Truth. I saved it as. Okay. I don't know if that showed up there or not. But anyway, I could have made it show up if I would. I don't know. Let's see. If I go window capture. And go properties at the window capture. What the other? Oh, yes. Yeah, if I probably would have did that. I don't know. Well, that's fine. We're good there. So anyway, there it is. So what we've been streaming now. 32 minutes. Nobody's up yet except Meltologists. Everyone else is going to work and so forth. So I don't see nobody in the chat except me. But I made a lot of comments during as this guy was talking. And it fits in with as he was talking. You know. I say red bricks, bam, when he's at the area where there's melted red bricks there. I even said, too bad he isn't a meltologist. To be turn around and look and listen, then he'd probably be saying, if he was a real human that's on the side of citizens and not historical nonsense and geological nonsense, if that's what we've been handed. When he gets, 4 or 5 years under his belt in regard to what these Meltologists been doing for the last 5 years, like Spartan Red and Dean and myself, Red Brick Bob, talking about Meltology. Okay, that's what we've been talking about, the truth. And we're stifled. They want to call us conspiracy theorists, but the only ones that are conspiring to continue to tell that lie about geology is academia. And people like this right here that we're trying to get them to wake up and turn around. And you will see what? You will see all the block lines. Look at this. Look at this. All melted building, folks. No matter where you go. So, we might as well let this guy just play out the rest of it real quick. See if he says anything else that will amaze us. Here we go. For educational purposes, we say what he's saying is not so. He's going to tell you what he believes and the stories he's been told. And we ask you to think on your own. And look around. And we told you red bricks and it's there and it's obvious. And we tell you they melted and those were buildings. They're not mountains. So let's proceed. We'll let this guy finish. We even put a link for the video, Lost Roads Gold Mine. Follow the geology. ingenious dike. You enter melted buildings. Here we go.
This is where you're going to find the Lost Roads mine.
Okay, he's going to show us where you could find the lost gold mine. Right? See, I love that overhead picture they showed you of the melt. They even showed you the flow of which way it was flowing. See? Everything was expanding. So if we're going to move to that.
You've lived a life full of experiences.
Oh, well, we don't want to
and
hear
so
that.
have we.
So
But it's
definitely
not time to
we
slow
don't want
down.
to hear no
It's time to keep
commercials.
going.
So we'll get back to a regular program.
This is my 3 reasons. And the first reason is, and it's the most important reason by far, is the geology. The Lost Roads mine, it's an amazing claim. We're talking about an abnormal deposit of gold. And for an amazing gold deposit like that, you need some equally amazing geology to support it, to back it up.
Let's see if we can get
and
off.
with this igneous...
Oh yeah, let's get right to there. We pushed him ahead a little bit to get to show you more meltification on the side of this melted building.
And
right
keep
here.
in mind, limestone...
Yeah, I put him on, I paused him there for a second. So he's on pause, and looky there. Okay, we'll get him rolling again because now the wheel's not spinning. So
does not naturally contain gold. Gold has to be deposited in limestone, and so more than...
Right there, now stop. Look right here, folks. Look right here. What are you seeing? Okay? You go to my video and you see it. I have one of my videos at the end of the street on Chief Joseph channel, or you see this at the end of the street, about probably from here down like this, a block about that big, all perfectly showing you the same exact, and that's red brick right there, folks. This is red brick in the expansion of the melt. It was an occurrence, not with eons of time or anything like that. This is googly gop what geology hands you. So we'll proceed. I just wanted you to see that, to make it obvious so you can understand what we're talking about. Everywhere you go, all the Capitol buildings in America, we're here ready, inherited, moved in and fixed up.
Unlikely, the Dyer mine was in the contact zone with this igneous intrusion. And to understand what took place at the Dyer mine, we have to look at the research done by a man named Dr. David Alt. And Dr. Alt was a professor of geology at the University of Montana, a very well-respected geologist.
Not anymore.
He authored almost 30 books on geology. He passed away in 2015 at the age of 81. But up in the Bannock goldfields in Montana, you have a similar situation to what you have at the Dyer mine, but on a much larger scale. And you have this limestone deposit coming into contact with an igneous intrusion, and right there in the contact zone, they pulled out a lot of gold. They were pulling gold out of those deposits for almost 70 years.
Out of that melted
that's
building,
how much gold
look as he pans down. Why don't you go
and so
down here?
David
Come on, drop it. You don't want to
was
see
really
the trees.
curious, what's the special
See what kind
relationship
of
between
geologist
limestone
or geology
and
mind you
igneous
have. You want to pan
intrusions?
to the trees
And what David
when
found
right there was melted building and
was
he didn't
as you have
show
this
it. Because
molten
that's what it
magma
was, folks.
from this intrusion
See, if it
coming
was
up
a
from the earth,
meltologist, they'd have been
and
panning
when it
right on
comes
the
into
rocks.
contact
So we're going to
with
move
limestone,
further.
there's a
He's
very,
not being
intense
honest with us there in
reaction
regard
that
to
occurs,
footage.
and a wide
See,
variety of
they're going to give
minerals
you
are
some
created
magma
to
garbage
include
stuff,
gold. And this
and we're not buying that. So
being devalued, especially in areas
you know what? Matter of fact,
outside of...
I'm going to just ice him from talking right now, because what he's saying is, there's no scientific basis to prove anything that he's saying there. Just stories, hypothetical stories. Some of the true things that he would tell you is, you know, the Indian was tricked, and people were tricked into letting people on this land and so forth, and that's why, you know, we have the Native Americans who have nothing today and are stuck in little areas, see? So, anyway. So, I think, let's see, what, it's 7:45 in the morning. 7:44 actually, 7:45 in a minute. And we took you on another little quest here, showing you that people in geology and these people like Bassanite believe these stories of what they're trying to reiterate. And right behind him in the video you see melted building, the block lines and everything, and red bricks, and evidence of red bricks and meltification, like Meltologists tell you. So there's the absolute truth. Let's see what else he's got here. Anything? Let's see if he got any. See if he's got any more footage. You know, because he passed up the real good footage that any one of the Meltologists side would have been honing on it, and bam, would have been right there on it. And he can't do that. See, this is, look there, what you're seeing right there. That's chunk of, we unearthed that, and you'll see that's chunk of melted building. You'll find brick lines and everything, and yeah, rocks that were once bricks and so forth, not from eons of time, from an occurrence that happened. So he ain't showing us nothing there. So is he gonna come over here and show us anything? No, he wants to pan. But that all behind you, what you see in the air, that's a melted building, not a mountain. So let's go. I'm panning forward to make this shorter. Let's see, we've been streaming 42 minutes. We're gonna end this here. We gotta do things, but I don't see him having anything more, you know, panning right, you know, on the walking on the foothill of it or anything like that, because it would be evident, and they don't want to, you know, help dissuade geology. They're trying to, you know, prove this bullshit and theory that they want to cram down people's neck in regard to that, and that's an absolute lie. And see, there he's walking around, and you see chunks of melted building everywhere, not through these thermal things and pushing this rock up and this and that. That's absolute bullshit, folks. So anyway, we heard enough from old boy. We told you right from the start that geology is a lie, because Meltology is showing the way. We ask you, those who are watching, you tell us what you think. You go do your own research. You know, watch this video about Uinta Mountains, which are actually Uinta melted buildings in Utah. And there is the Mormons going in there and see more just nonsensical stuff. You know, just like the Mormons built that stuff there in Utah, and you know that's a narrative lie too. Same kind of construction everywhere. You know, the Capitol there was here when America was formed, and those other buildings were taken over by a group of people that put a label on themselves, and they say they're religious and leaders. There's some facts for you, folks. So from the Red Bricks channel, we will say peace. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. Stand by for the next video. See you in the black mirror. And Bassanite, I hope you wake up. So here's what we're gonna do before I close. We'll go over here and get the link. There's the link, and we're gonna go into the live streaming chat here and drop that. There's the link for what we watched tonight. Used it under the Fair Use Act, So, oh, so everything. Only one was in the chat this morning was me. That's alright. I hope more people see this, like it, share it, subscribe, and make a comment. Help get on board. And let's see how we can get things done around here. You know what I mean? So we need help. We got a lot of good guys on the ground, in the black mirror, looking around. I think if we need to all collaborate, like a couple gals mentioned in regard, and a couple streams of Meltology and Red Brick University and so forth. So I think we need to really get serious and do that. I'm up for it. I am pumped. So I'll also leave a link in the description box. So of this. I don't know if I could edit it. Let's see if I could edit it. Wow, it's there. Oh, I can. So I'm going to put a link there as well. So it's right after. So without further ado, put the link to that right there. There's the link. So let me move this. I gotta save that now. So that's saved. So I guess that's it, folks. We out of here. Have a beautiful day. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. And I don't know what else to say. I was hoping maybe someone will come by, but no one come by. But that's alright. We're still gonna do our thing. So let me know what you think, folks.